abuse.
The Mary Ellen Willson child abuse case and the beginning of children's rights in 19th century America.
In the 1800s, in both England and America, children were considered the properties of their fathers. In 1830, there were few laws that prohibited large amounts of physical discipline to children.
During the beginning of 1874, there were no laws in the U.S. to save a child from the abuse. So in 1874, New York Supreme Court, there was a debate over the role of family matters. New York had a law that allowed children who were being physically disciplined to be removed from their homes. However, New York authorities did not want to intervene with Mary Ellen's case.
Did you know that the American Society for the Prevention to Cruelty to Animals argued for the laws to protect children? They said that the laws protecting animals from the abuse should not be greater than the laws protecting children. And that's when they brought the Mary Ellen Willson case. And after her case, citizens formed a New York Society for the Prevention to Cruelties for Children in 1874.
Mary Ellen was a bright little girl whose features indicated unusual mental capacity with a worn, stunted, premature look.
Judge Lawrence had a warrant for the Conways under Section 5 of the Habeas Corpus Act. This read, whenever it shall appear by satisfactory proof that anyone is held in illegal confinement or custody and that there is a good reason to believe that he will suffer some irreparable injury before he can be relieved by the issuing of a habeas corpus, or any court or officer authorized to issue such writs may issue a warrant and bring him before such court or officer to be dealt with according to the law. My father and mother are both dead. I don't know how old I am. I have no recollection of a time when I did not live with the Conways. Mama has been in the habit of whipping and beating me almost every day. She used to whip me with a twisted whip, a rawhide. The whip always left a black and blue mark on my body. I have no recollection of ever having been kissed by anyone. I have never been kissed by Mama. I have never been taken on Mama's lap and caressed or petted. I never dared to speak to anyone because if I did, I would have to get whipped. I do not know for what I was whipped. Mama never said anything to me when she whipped me.
Do you think this is really child abuse?
How much discipline is child abuse?
Is child abuse appropriate for everyday life, or at all?
These questions remain in people's minds every day.
Mary Ellen was an 8-year-old girl who was abused by her step-parents, Francis and Mary Connolly. The court charges were regular beatings, not always being fed, forced to sleep on the floor with no warm clothes during the winter, almost always left in a dark room, forbidden to go outside. After the step-parents were found guilty, Miss Connolly was sent to jail for almost 1 whole year.
I do not want to go back to live with Mama because she beats me. I have no recollection of ever being on the street in my life. Mary Ellen, April 10th, 1874.
Is the Mary Ellen case really child abuse?
Yes, the Mary Ellen child abuse case is really child abuse because she had marks that were left on her body for months, and on a child abuse website, studies say that if there are marks on a child's body for more than a few months from the parents or guardians, it is indeed child abuse. In 1874, the New York Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children was established. The group investigated 300 cases of child abuse.
Back then, it wasn't seen as child abuse. It was not reported for fear of being a witness. Witness protection has never been a completely safe thing. Also, most abuse was behind closed doors, so no one knew.
At the end of the 19th century, child abuse switched from being a private matter to being a public concern.
In the early 1900s, many children were deprived of a happy childhood because of ignorance and poverty. This may have seemed okay back then, but now is called neglect.
In the 1960s, there was very little mention of child abuse. In the 1900s, it was discovered that mostly women were the abusers and inflicted the most damage. Also, it was in the mid-1960s when Dr. Henry Kempe referred to the battered baby syndrome as child abuse.
They introduced a legislation to prevent physical punishment that happens at home.
Did you know 1 out of 600 children were victims of physical abuse?
Can't you see the fear in their eyes?
Imagine a world without child abuse. Together we can make it happen.